So to refurbish this lock mechanism using the Refurb kit contents, we're going to begin by removing the centre case of the old mechanism. This is a Fuhr 35 back set latch and deadbolt 2-hook mechanism. We'll start off with the centre case. The screws fixing the centre case to the strip are T20 Torque screws. So we'll begin by removing those. If your lock has the black plastic tab for the latch, depress the latch and slide that up out of the way and you'll get access to the middle fixing screw. With the gearbox removed, we can move on to our top hook case. The top hook case is secured with two of the same T20 Torque screws. Big one, three on each hook case. All of the screws on this mechanism are of the same length. And moving on to our bottom hook case. Again, this is an upwards hook. All of the hooks on this mechanism are upwards hooks. And again, 3 T20 Torque screws for the bottom hook case. So with our lock cases removed, we can get the parts from our refurb kit and begin to refurbish this lock mechanism. So this Fuhr refurb kit then contains a centre case with a latch and deadbolt, top hook and a bottom hook case, both of which are upwards hooks. And these are fixed onto the faceplate with 9 T20 Torque screws, all of an equal length. These are a medium length Torque screw, and there are 9 of them needed to make this refurbishment. So to begin this refurb process, we'll start with the centre case, and the connections for this centre case are some of the more unusual and in some ways fiddlier connections to make. So our top connection is made with this aperture cut into the drive rod. So a rectangular aperture in the drive rod that sits over this peg, which is centrally positioned on the gearbox. It's a little bit unusual. The bottom connection is more unusual, which is a 90-degree backwards facing return on the drive rod, and that locates and sits in this notch, this cutout here, that is between the latch and the deadbolt. So our bottom connection, our bottom drive rod connection, is made between our latch and deadbolt halfway up the gearbox. Now, in order for the drive rod to run up and down above the deadbolt, it has a cutout on the drive rod that will move over the deadbolt. As you can see there, one window moves over the other. And because of that, we have to connect this in a certain way. The deadbolt features a a T-shaped profile, which you can just about see there. And that T-shaped profile allows that window to narrow at the bottom there and slide up into that T profile, which locks the bolt. So we have to do the reverse when installing it. So to simplify that, what we have to do is sit the faceplate on top with the connections roughly where we see them. So we can see our top connections around there to the peg, and our 90-degree return will sit around there. But to get the faceplate to sit over the deadbolt, we have to move this down so that the window is clear above the deadbolt, so that the deadbolt can sit through and the faceplate sit flush. So like that. And then once that's through and is sitting over the deadbolt, we then have to move that drive rod up into place so that it sits in that cutout. And you have to manipulate this. It can be a little bit fiddly at first. We have to manipulate this so that both top and bottom connections are sitting where they need to be before you screw it down. So that's the top one in where it needs to be. That's in the right place. And that's the bottom one sitting where it needs to be. So it's a little bit of a fiddly process that to manipulate them into position, but you'll feel once they're there, because as one drive rod moves, the other one at the other end of the gearbox will move also, showing that they're connected. Once you have got them in position, always best to get the bottom fixing in first with these so that that deadbolt rail is locked in place. And then once that one's in, get our top fixing in. And as mentioned earlier when we took the old block apart, the central fixing is sometimes obscured by this plastic cover, so you'll have to depress the latch bolt slide that cover up out of the way as best as possible. Let's get that central one past the little plastic tab. Once it's passed, that's moving freely. And we can then move on to our top hook case. So our top hook case, again, we need 3 T20 Torx screws, and all the screws for this mechanism are the same length. And again, the connection point is central. So we have a square aperture this time, closest to the hook. So looking in our hook case, here's our hook, the closest one of these square pegs, denoting that that has to be fitted this way round, so an upwards hook. And again, the easiest way to do it, sit it on its back, position the hook case underneath, line the hook up with the aperture, and peering through the side, make sure that that drive rod there, the square window, sits over that peg. And once that's in position, clamp it down with one of the Torx screws, bottom fixing first. And then middle fixing. And a top fixing. And we can move on to our bottom hook case. So same process for our bottom hook case, another 3 T20 torque screws, only this time we can see that the square aperture for our peg is quite far from the hook. So looking at our hook case, here's our hook, one square peg, this is the one that's far from the hook, so we know it must be this way up, and again giving us the upwards hook that we're expecting. So same situation, we're going to turn our lock over, position our drive rod on that square peg, faceplate over the top, and clamp it down with our bottom fixing. And then once that bottom fixing is on, middle fixing followed by the top fixing. Obviously all of this is done with the lock in the unlocked position. You must make sure that all the drive rods are in the unlocked position. Just give the lever, pull the lever down, or use a tool to simulate pulling the lever down so that you know everything's in the unlocked position, and everything should line up nicely. And there we have refurbished our Fuhr 2-hook mechanism.